karuna prachu anilo prema dhana karuna prachu anilo prema dhana karuna prachu heno prabhu kotha gela Prabhu kotha gela jaya thakur heno Prabhu kotha gela jaya thakur Prabhu kotha gela jaya thakur kaha mora swarup rupa kaha sanatana Raghunatha patita pavana kaha dasa Raghunatha patita pavana kaha mora bhatta yoga kaha kavira kaha mora bhatta yoga kaha kavira kale kotha gela gora natara eka kale kotha gela gora natara kale kotha gela gora natara eka kale kotha gela gora pasane kuthibo matha anale pashibo pasane kuthibo Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kotha Gele Pamo Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kotha Gele Pamo Se Saba Sangira Sange Je Koi Lo Bila Se Saba Sangira Sange Je Koi Lo Bila Sangana Paya Kande Narotamadas Se Sangana Paya San Narotamadas anilo prema dhana karuna Prabhu Kotha Gela Chaya Thakur Heno Prabhu Kotha Gela Chaya Thakur Prabhu Kotha Gela Chaya Thakur Heno Prabhu Kotha Gela Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki Jai. Like our Premanande. Translation format. Prabhuji, should we read the translation really quick or not right now?
Sure, I think that would be wonderful.
Okay. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where's Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where's Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performs his pastime, Narottam Das simply weeps. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Gopal and Ram. That's a very nice. Sorry, I just got in from outside. That's a beautiful bhajan. So at this point, I think we'll have Madhavi Prabhu. Are you available?
Yes, I am, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So pujaris will do the Pushpanjali, and they're aware that you're going to be chanting the pranam mantras. So I think once they're up there, and then after Pushpanjali, then if you can please go ahead and go into Guru Vandana prayers.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
We'll just do the best we can, and if all the devotees want to, at the same time the pujaris are doing, the Pushpanjali, you can do Pushpanjali to Srila Prabhupada at your house and then turn on the video. That would be good. Thank you.
So, Hare Krishna. So, we will chant the Prabhupada Pranati, and at the end, we will say Esha Pushpanjali 3 times. And please take a bunch of flower petals and offer it to the photo or deity of Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali. We will chant the Guru Vandana. Is that okay?
Sure, or you can, do you want to say pranam mantra like 3 times and,
Okay.
give all the devotees a chance to kind of also, do at their home, I think. Is that okay?
Yes. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali. Okay. I think hope everybody got a chance to offer flowers to Srila Prabhupada. So we will at this point chant the Guru Vandana prayers.
I think, Madhavi Prabhu, maybe once you see the pujari standing there.
Yes, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting.
Yeah, sorry. We're trying to do remote distance. There he goes.
Okay. Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Satma Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Satma Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Satma Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Satma Bandhu Mui Savadhana Mate Bandhu Mui Savadhana Mate Bandhu Mui Savadhana Mate Bandhu Mui Savadhana Mate Sahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavaturiya Jai Sahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavaturiya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Krishna Prapti Hoy Krishna Prapti Hoy Krishna Prapti Hoy Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Kya Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Kya Arana Kori Ho Mani Asha Arana na kori ho mane aasha Sri Guru charane rati aise uttama gati Sri Guru charane rati aise uttama gati ye prasade pure sarva आशा ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति यह होते अविद्या विनाशयते प्रेम भक्ति यह होते अविद्या विनाशयते वेद गाय जहर चरितो वेद गाय जहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधो लोकनाथ लोकेर दीवाना लोकनाथ लोकेर दीवाना आहा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया 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 ये भया गुसु त्रिभुवना ये भया सगुसु त्रिभुवना प्रभुपाद पतित पवना प्रभुपाद पतित पवना प्रभुपाद रोइलो शरणा प्रभुपाद रोइलो शरणा आहा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया आहा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया इबेया दुसु त्रिभुवना इबेया दुसु त्रिभुवना प्रभुपाद पतित पवना प्रभुपाद पतित पवना जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा श्रील गुरुदेवा प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय Hare Krishna.
Davni prayers.
Can somebody read the translation?
Sure, go ahead. Do you want to read or have one of your children read?
Maybe somebody else can read.
So I can read if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Guru Vandana, the worship of Sri Guru from Prem Bhakti Chandrika by Srila Damodarashtakam. The lotus feet of the spiritual master are the abode of pure devotional service. I bow down to those lotus feet with great care and attention. My dear brother, my dear mind, it is through the grace of the spiritual master that we cross over this material existence and obtain Krishna. Make the teachings from the lotus mouth of the spiritual master one with your heart and do not desire anything else. Attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the best means of spiritual advancement. By his mercy, all desires for spiritual perfection are fulfilled. He who has given me the gift of transcendental vision is my Lord, birth after birth. By his mercy, divine knowledge is revealed within the heart, bestowing prema bhakti and destroying ignorance. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. O spiritual master, ocean of mercy and friend of the fallen souls, you are the teacher of everyone and the life of all people. O master, be merciful unto me and give me the shade of your lotus feet. May your glories now be proclaimed throughout the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I go Premanandi. Hari Hari. Thank you, Mother Prabhu, for chanting sweetly the prayers of the spiritual master. So at 7:15, His Holiness Giriraj Swami will be joining us. So until then, we can have devotees chant the Mahamantra, or the other option is we can have a devotee chant Damodarashtakam. Any thoughts of what devotees would like to do until then? I see a lot of devotees who like chanting Damodarashtakam online. So, let's see.
Damodarashtakam would be good, Prabhuji.
So, Tulsi, why don't you go ahead and chant? I think last week was your turn, but because we're doing a Zoom Boston channel, maybe you can, if you're able to, if you want to, you can chant Damodarashtakam. Are you able to, Tulsi?
Hare Krishna Prabhu? Yes, I can. Hare Krishna?
Yes, please do so. I think you guys have like maybe more than one connection, so I'm hearing that echoing thing.
We don't actually. Is it this? It's calling it? Okay, Prabhu, give me just another 10 seconds.
Okay. So we need to wrap up by once we see His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj at 7:15, okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Namah Vishwaram Sachidanandayogam Sakundaram Gokule Vrajamalam Namah Vishwaram Sachidanandayogam Sakundaram Gokule Vrajamalam Yashoda Viyolukaladavaram Paramishtamathyanta Kodrutaroga Yashoda Viyolukaladavaram Paramishtamathyanta Kodrutaroga Dantamunekam Namirantam Rambojayumena Satankanetram Dantamunekayumam Prajantam Rambojayumena Satankanetram Swasakam Pati Rekhakakanta Sitagriva Damodaram Bhaktivadam Swasakam Pati Rekhakakanta Sitagriva Damodaram Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Thank you, Tulsi. Do you want to read the English translation for those that are not necessarily familiar with it?
I have it here with me. If other devotee would like to read, that's also fine as well.
I think for sake of time, maybe you can just go ahead and read.
Alright. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokula, who, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from a swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her, who ran after him with greater speed. To that Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisance. Seeing the stick in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To this Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisance. By such childhood pastimes as this, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy, and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence, that he is conquered only by devotees, whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha. nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, and your lips are reddish like the bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me. By showering your glance of mercy upon me, deliver this poor ignorant fool who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows and become visible to my eyes. O Lord Damodar, just as the two sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nal Kuvera, were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby tied with rope to a wooden grinding motor. In the same way, please give to me your own prema bhakti. I long only for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation. O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances unto you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Radha Damodar ki jai.
Thank you. So I think Maharaj will be joining us pretty shortly. We just wait. Did everybody have a good Srila Prabhupada observance day today? We see a lot of wonderful devotees that are not in our congregation, but I see them. I presume you're from all different parts of the world, so thank you for joining. There's Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for been a marathon day for you, I think.
Yes.
Thank you. So we're, I'll just do a very brief introduction. We're very happy to have the association of His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who will be speaking to us about Srila Prabhupada Disappearance observance. Maharaj, I saw your email yesterday where you described Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in Vrindavan and how two groups of devotees, both imbued with love, had somewhat different desires in Srila Prabhupada, how Krishna can fulfill many desires with just one act. Srila Prabhupada did it so nicely. And reading that and reading how you read the 10th canto, chapter 9, I saw that amazing aspect of your experience with Srila Prabhupada is, of course, you had much personal association, but that personal association led to such deep realization and very profound realization. And I was very grateful to read that yesterday, and I appreciate that very much. So I think Maharaj very much likes for everyone to turn on their videos.
Yes.
And ultimately turn off the audio, but maybe if everybody can turn on the audio and chant Hari Bol for appreciation of Maharaj extending himself so much. So can you all open up your audio and just, you know what to do. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai.
So I will begin singing the Mangala Charana prayers and leading a short kirtan. And then I will speak on Srila Prabhupada's, well, not just his final pastimes, but I would say his final lessons. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuddha Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupa Sagrajata Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Mustam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatyadeshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Shira Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Shira. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stottra Satasi Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stottra Satasi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Right. So again, as far as possible, please turn on your cameras so I can see your moon-like faces. So I'm glad, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu, that you mentioned my account of Srila Prabhupada's last days and the controversy among his disciples. I will not speak about that now, but it will be a good background for those who have heard me speak about that or who have read what I've written about it. So today I will there's so much to say about Srila Prabhupada's departure and the aftermath of his departure. I think I'll start with his departure. I was at the head of his bed, wishing I could have one last chance to serve Prabhupada in his bodily form. Suddenly he threw his arm back, and I was able to touch his hand and squeeze it gently. He had fulfilled my desire. I was grateful, satisfied, even amidst the overwhelming sorrow. As Srila Prabhupada's departure drew closer, the kirtan, led by Bharadraj, became more and more intense, sung in a kind of unusual chorus of two parts. Some devotees were singing Jai Prabhupada, while others were chanting the Maha Mantra. And somehow the two blended together in the most perfectly beautiful way. At 7:25, Prabhupada opened his eyes and moved his lips, speaking Hare Krishna. Then his jaw dropped, his complexion darkened, and he went still. The Kaviraj took Prabhupada's pulse and held a cotton swab to his nostrils. There was no breath. Tamal Krishna Goswami wrote in his diary, "Our beloved Srila Prabhupada had departed. He had been surrounded by loving disciples chanting the holy names of Krishna, lying peacefully on his bed in Ramanreti, Vrindavan, the sacred land where Krishna and his friends used to sport. His head was pointing toward the deities of Krishna Balaram. His forehead decorated with chandan and a large tulsi leaf, with photos of Krishna Balaram and Radha Krishna and Lord Nrsingadev and Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj nearby. A volume of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita laid beside his pillow. Holding Tulsi in his right hand, he had departed and returned to the lotus feet of Krishna, from whence he had come. It was 7:25 on Gaur Chaturthi Tithi, the fourth day of the light half of the month of Kartik, 5 minutes after the beginning of Amrita Yoga, the most auspicious time of the day. Bharadraj Prabhu wrote in his journal, 7:25, Prabhupada enters my heart in a flood of tears. The sun of the world has set. The shelter of the world has entered Vaikuntha. Harinam continues on and on. The room was filled with crying and wailing. The kirtan was going wild, with devotees chanting Hare Krishna and Jai Prabhupada. Pishima, Srila Prabhupada's sister, weeping piteously, went to the foot of Srila Prabhupada's bed, lifted the chadar, and placed his feet on her head. Then she took the dust from his feet and smeared it on her head and her eyes. Other devotees followed, clutching Prabhupada's lotus feet. Most of the devotees were then asked to leave, and Upendra wiped Prabhupada's body, decorated it with Vaishnav tilak markings, and dressed him in fresh cloth. And then, Prabhupada was taken into the temple room and on a palanquin, and that palanquin fit perfectly on his Vyasasan, so he was placed on his Vyasasan in the palanquin. And by Prabhupada's grace, even amidst the overwhelming feeling of sorrow, I was surprised to find myself experiencing a sort of ecstasy. The next morning, the residents of Vrindavan awaited their last darshan of the great Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who had spread Vrindavan's glories throughout the world. At 6:30, the Goswamis of the 7 main temples arrived to escort Prabhupada's divine form to their respective deities. He was sitting straight up, legs crossed, wearing his hat and chadar, in his flower-decorated palanquin, covered with garlands offered by disciples the night before. Vrajavasis came out from their homes and shops to watch, standing on steps and balconies alongside the road, calling out Jai Prabhupada to honor Vrindavan's favorite son, most famous saint, and international ambassador. All these hundreds of people came from nowhere, Rajashekar recalled. I couldn't figure out how everyone had heard about the procession, or even how they heard that Prabhupada had left. I had never seen Vrindavan in such a mood. Everyone came out to pay homage. Wherever we went, the rooftops were packed. As we went from one place to the other, Bhagavat remembered, people were performing arati, offering flowers, and offering prasad. All of Vrindavan was displaying their love and affection for Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna, along with many of us, was openly weeping. As we approached each temple, the head pujari would come out to receive Prabhupada, and the kirtan would rise to a crescendo, with the lead singer going Jai Madan Mohan, Jai Radha Damodar, Jai Radha Raman, glorifying each deity as we went one by one, and then Jai Prabhupada. Even submerged in an ocean of grief, we devotees felt proud to be disciples of such an illustrious, exalted, empowered Guru. The parikrama lasted 3 hours, concluding when we returned to the Krishna Balaram temple. And then Srila Prabhupada was placed into samadhi. Srila Prabhupada had instructed us to give 100 rupees to the main temples in Vrindavan, so that after his departure, they would do a Raj Bhoga offering on his behalf. They brought the Mahaprasad to the Krishna Balaram temple, and from there, devotees took it to Bhagaji's house, which was just near the temple. Bhagaji was a good friend of Srila Prabhupada's and a supporter. One of the Mahants of the Radha Damodar temple, where Prabhupada had resided before going to America, and where he had kept his rooms even after his return, came to Prabhupada's house with Mahaprasad. As I watched, the Mahant, Gaurachand Goswami, who was blind, started banging his cane on the bricks around the house and exclaimed, "Where is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? Swami Maharaj, are you there? I want to see you. Where are you? I know you're there. Swami Maharaj, I know you are there." Considering what had been a mixed relationship between Prabhupada and the Radha Damodar Goswamis, I was touched. The caste Goswami's affection for Prabhupada had prevailed. Soon after Prabhupada left, amidst all the grief and anxiety, I asked Tamal Krishna Goswami whether there was any service I could do. "Not now," he said, "later. Why don't you write an article about Srila Prabhupada and his departure, which we can send to our friends and devotees?" So, submerged in feelings of deep separation, I began by quoting Srimad Bhagavatam 10:48-26, and I read, "Ka panditas tvara param sharanam samiyad, bhakta priyarita gira surida kritagyat, sarvan dadati surido bhajato bikaman, atmanam apyupachaya pachayo nayasya." Who can surrender to anyone other than yourself? Who is as dear, truthful, friendly, and grateful as you? You are so perfect and complete that even though you give yourself to your devotees, you are still full and perfect. You can satisfy all the desires of your devotee and even deliver yourself unto him. And then I wrote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the most beloved personality, and Sri Prabhupada was just like him. We loved him as the dearest personality of our soul. He came from the spiritual world to tell us of our real life with God and to show us the kindness of God. He passed so many days with us in this miserable world. He was a divine personality. He was not of this world. He was never of this world. He came to show us God. Everything about him was perfect, and his sublime presence demonstrated perfection in every respect. His beautiful body, his sympathetic face, his compassionate glance, his sweet words, his joyful smile, his appreciating eating, his profound voice, his peaceful resting, his ecstatic dancing, all were perfect from another world. He was everything to us, our mother, father, friend, companion, guide, master, child, life itself. How can we bear being separated from him? How can we tolerate such a loss? Now he has left us here to carry on his mission, waiting for the day when we will again be with him and have the chance to serve him personally. And I wrote, quite a bit more as a sort of, a farewell message and an informative message to send to our friends. 4 days after Prabhupada's disappearance, on November 18th, Gopastami, the date when Krishna came of age and was given charge of the cows, to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire to go on parikrama and to have his association along the way. The devotees took a small brass deity of him to Govardhan Hill. We set out after Mangal Arati with Prabhupada present in his small deity form and a large frame photo. And that was a whole other experience. But one very, very significant part of it came when we went to Radhakund. We went first to Radhakund, and Prabhupada's deity was placed on the Sangam, the strip between Radhakund and Shamakund, where there is a shrine with Govardhan Shilas. As we performed kirtan, I had the clear realization that the deity and Srila Prabhupada were the same. The deity was actually him. There was no difference. I began to cry, but I was happy. Prabhupada was right there, still with us. Next, we went around Govardhan, where we carried Prabhupada in procession on his beautifully decorated palanquin. As we circumambulated the mountain, Tamal Krishna recounted, no longer did our hearts burn from separation. We were with Prabhupada again. We were so glad to see him riding again on his palanquin, leading us as always, giving us shelter. It was a cool day, and our walking created dust, the whole atmosphere becoming filled with dust. And we could only remember Krishna coming home from tending the cows. After the exhilaration of the outing to Govardhan, during which we had felt Prabhupada's presence so strongly, I was again beset by deep feelings of separation. I was constantly on the verge of tears, and any slight remembrance of him could set me off. I was also concerned about our future without Prabhupada's personal presence. What would happen to us individually as devotees? What would happen to the movement? How would we function? I recalled an exchange almost 6 years earlier when we had been living in the Chatai hut in Juhu. One of the devotees had mentioned Prabhupada's ultimately leaving us, and Srimati Dasi had responded, "ISKCON without Prabhupada, it's hard to imagine." Looking for solace and guidance in Prabhupada's books, I came across a section that addressed the disappearance of the spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:28, 45 to 55. Some passages encouraged me that my lamentation over Prabhupada's departure was justified. Some passages that I could regain his association by serving his instructions. Text 47 stated, "Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears, which soaked her breasts, and crying very loudly." In his purport, Srila Prabhupada had written, figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple of the king. Thus, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciple should cry exactly as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. However, the disciple and spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple, as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of vani, words. Physical presence is called vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. The next verse discussed the chaos or disorder that I anticipated might follow Prabhupada's disappearance. The queen addressed her late husband, "O best of kings, please get up, get up. Just see this world surrounded by water and infested with rogues and so-called kings. The world is very much afraid, and it is your duty to protect her." And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained, quote, "Whenever an acharya comes, following the superior orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, he establishes the principles of religion as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita. Religion means abiding by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Religious principles begin from the time one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the Acharya's duty to spread a bona fide religious system and induce everyone to bow down before the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, when the Acharya disappears, rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so-called swamis, yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers, and so on. The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all times, to become his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord, and to bow down before him. Here Srila Prabhupada is paraphrasing Lord Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskar, which comes twice in the Bhagavad Gita. The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all times, Manmana, to become his devotees, Madbhakta, to worship the Supreme Lord, Madhyaji, and to bow down before him, Mam Namaskaru. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Supreme Lord, establishes these principles, but when he disappears, things once again become disordered. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. I was astonished. Srila Prabhupada was telling me exactly what I needed to know. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. Still, I had some apprehensions. How would I get detailed guidance from Prabhupada when there was a question regarding which of his instructions to apply in a particular complex situation? And what would be my qualification to receive such guidance? His answers began in his purport to text 50. It is the long-standing tradition of the Vedic system that a faithful wife dies along with her husband. This is called Saha Marana. The wife used to enter the fire voluntarily. When Maharaj Pandu died, he was survived by two wives, Madri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wife settled that one should remain and the other should go. Madri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the 5 Pandava children. This indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon this earth to reestablish the principles of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to reestablish religious principles. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. The last sentence was my assignment and my challenge. Quote, to execute the will of the spiritual master, The disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. And the next two purports explained how that detailed guidance would come. I'm reading this not only because we're discussing Srila Prabhupada's departure and the aftermath of his departure on his disappearance day, but because this is a common question that we all face. How do we get instructions from the spiritual master when he's not physically present? He may not be physically present because he's left this world, or he may not be physically present because he's geographically distant or unavailable. So the following instructions are very important. So I continue reading. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. The Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Surit, the best friend. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come home back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially. But whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to be happy through material adjustment and instead turn his face toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto him. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount, means like equal, the same as seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse, Vayavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana, Gita 241, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one engages in the service of the spiritual master, he not only sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but attains liberation. As far as material conveniences are concerned, they automatically come, just as the maidservants of a queen follow the queen wherever she goes. Liberation is no problem for the pure devotee, and all material conveniences are simply awaiting him at all stages of life. Reading this, I felt purified and exhilarated. I had gotten the guidance, the answers I needed in a most encouraging and empowering way. I went to share my discovery with Tamal Krishna and other friends who agreed that Srila Prabhupada was so perfect that he could provide all necessary instruction even after his departure. So, this was, what can I say? Srila Prabhupada was so perfect that he gave us the instructions we needed just at the time we needed them after he left. And as Srila Prabhupada wrote in his dedication to Srimad Bhagavatam, dedicated to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So, although we are feeling separation from Srila Prabhupada on this day, especially, but we can feel his presence, we can have his association by following his instructions. I don't know how proper it is to disclose it, but there was an exact moment when I felt, Srila Prabhupada's presence after he left. It's very much like what was described in the sections from the fourth canto, from which I read some excerpts. I was in Pakistan. I would go to preach in Pakistan. And we had a very good friend who was Muslim named Salim Akhtar. And he was so helpful. I don't think we hardly had any friends in Bombay amongst the Hindu community who were as helpful as Salim was. So Salim had a big house in an area called Clifton, which in a way is sort of like Juhu Beach in that it's very near the sea. And so he invited us, because we really didn't have any place of our own. So he invited us to stay with him, and we did stay with him for some time. And yeah, I'll never forget. I was on the rooftop of his home, chanting japa, and suddenly I just felt Srila Prabhupada's presence manifest itself. I didn't read that full section from the fourth canto because a little later it describes how the Paramatma appears to the queen, who figuratively represents the disciple, to give her guidance in the absence of her husband, or in our case, it would be in the absence of the spiritual master. And it was just like that. So, yeah, I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada that he has given us all the instructions we need in his books and is available to all of us at any time when we want. And he's created a house in which the whole world can live peacefully and happily. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, do we have time for questions and comments, or what do you suggest?
I think we have nothing but time.
Nothing but time. Okay. Krishna says, time I am. All right, so if any of you want to say anything, raise your hand. Okay, Siddhi Lalas has raised her hand. Please unmute yourself. And again, my dear devotees, please put on your cameras, if at all possible. It will facilitate, it will make the meeting more personal. So yes, Siddhi Lalasa Dasi.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. I just wanted to say, well, yesterday I had the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry. I was, I'm sorry. Actually, I was thinking of all Prabhupada's disciples. And like Prabhupada came from the spiritual world, and he lived in this miserable material world with us. And for me, I'm only thinking when will I get out? I may be preaching, but I'm only thinking, when will I get out from here? And I'm seeing all of you, Prabhupada's disciples, who are so determined. I mean, yourself, Jayapataka Maharaj, with a miracle. So many others who, I thought of Ramachandra. I always think of Ramachandra. He came and lived a life of an ordinary human being, suffered so much in this material world. And when the Lord comes, he comes with his associates. I'm thinking of Prabhupada. He came from the spiritual world, but with him came the devas. That's all of you. And I'm listening to Prabhupada's lectures and the room conversations. And one of the books that impressed me the most was Science of Self-Realization. And that's what convinced me that Prabhupada is genuine, the movement is genuine. But now I'm hearing those conversations. It's very, very powerful. And I realized that Prabhupada was actually not dealing with ordinary people. He was preaching, yes, to leaders, but those youngsters who are with him, they are not ordinary, that they are actually devas. And that's why, I mean, the way you describe now what you read, someone who's in his 20s, how is it possible to understand this and make an entire life of dedication? So much suffering, physical suffering, but still, no, we want to preach, we preach. So this is what I was feeling, and that's why Prabhupada was so confident that in only 10 years, he set up the movement, and he left. And I think he said, it's not like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who was like, I heard, disgusted and left. Prabhupada said he's satisfied.
Yeah, that's true. So yes, Srila Prabhupada has left us a great legacy by his divine grace. And now we have to, as we're reading, we have to execute the mission of the spiritual master and be ready to lay down our life for it, set aside all personal considerations and execute the mission of the spiritual master. But set aside all personal consideration does not mean that we neglect our health. we also have to take care of our health. I did have that tendency to work very hard and neglect my health. And then once in Juhu, Srila Prabhupada told me to work very hard for Krishna for 2 days, and then to have to recuperate for 3 days. That is not a very good proposition. So, yeah, we have to take care of our health. And once when I fell sick, he wrote me a nice letter, a very nice letter, in which he said that that your body is very valuable. It is dedicated to Krishna service. So you should take care of the body very carefully. And he said the best is to take rest along with the doctor's prescription and to chant the holy name. The holy name is the panacea to cure all material diseases. So that was a beautiful letter. So yeah, I mean, lay down our lives for the mission of the spiritual master doesn't mean that we should, neglect our health or leave our bodies unnecessarily early. But we we maintain the body and soul together so we can serve Srila Prabhupada and Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj, my name is Prema Madhavi Devdasi. I'm sorry I can't raise my hand because Narottam Das is the host. We have a watch party here, Maharaj, to hear your class today. Thank you so much. It was so heart-touching. Maharaj, my only question was, where can we get that article? You only read an excerpt of it. So where can we get the article which Krishna Goswami asked you to write?
Well, what I was reading from and commenting on is from my forthcoming book about Srila Prabhupada and Juhu called I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story. And although the focus is Juhu, definitely, but the book includes all of my association with Srila Prabhupada, including, very much those last weeks in Vrindavan. And going to the Kumbh Mela with him. There's a chapter about being with him at the Maha Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela is every 12 years, and every 12 Kumbh Melas is a Maha Kumbh Mela. So 1977 was a Maha Kumbh Mela. And so, there's a chapter about that. There are so many. Prabhupada was invited to Varda. That's in the center of India, Maharashtra, near Nagpur, for a Gita conference. And so, I was with Srila Prabhupada there. So there are many, you could say, side trips from Bombay with Srila Prabhupada. And so, I was reading from that forthcoming book, I'll Build You a Temple. Yeah, thank you for inquiring. It's at the printer now. It's being published by the BBT under His Holiness Devamrita Swami, and Devamrita Swami said it will take about 2 months to print after the PDF has been approved, and we did just approve the PDF, so it should be coming soon. Then it will be shipped from Bombay to different places.
It'll be a great New Year gift 2021. Jai. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Maharaj, Maitreya Prabhu has his hands raised.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you. It said that the disciple that takes the order of the spiritual master to heart and executes it to his heart and soul, after the departure of his guru, it's tantamount to seeing Krishna face to face. Can you comment on that, please?
Oh yeah. Again, you know, it's an elaborate discussion, and for the sake of time, I didn't read everything. But one of the lines that's very memorable to me is, you know, Srila Prabhupada said, you know, instead of wanting to see Krishna in some bush in Vrindavan while engaging in all nonsense, you know, you should rather follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And, you know, it's like, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. So if we follow the orders of the spiritual master, eventually, you know, by his and Krishna's grace, we will see Krishna. And that comes later in that same chapter of the Bhagavatam, that the Paramatma, very, very interesting, really. The Paramatma comes to the queen, the widow, who figuratively is the disciple after the spiritual master leaves, and says that I am your old friend, but you have forgotten. And he says that we used to like sport together, like two swans on Manasa Lake. And this section can be used as, you know, quite compelling evidence to the idea that we had a relationship with Krishna before we came into the material world. It's very powerful. So, yeah. A lot of nectar in following the orders of the spiritual master, and a lot of nectar awaiting us from following the orders of the spiritual master. Yeah. The first time I went to Vrindavan, I mean, there's a bit of a history to it. And then I came and I met Srila Prabhupada in Bombay. And he asked me about my experience in Vrindavan. And I said I felt I could feel Krishna's presence. I couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. For now, you just feel the presence. And later, when the time comes, you can see. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you for inviting me to speak about Srila Prabhupada on this divine occasion. And if we are going to end now, I suggest we conclude with Vaishnava Pranam. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desired trees, the desires of everyone, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa trubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Bye.
Srila Prabhupada ki